all-American half pounder, 2 pure beef patties, lettuce, tomato.
Singles going steady.
This is Singles Going Steady, the podcast dedicated to exploring great singles with a particular eye to the punk, new wave, and DIY eras of the last century. I'm Adrienne Meddock.
And I'm Steve McGowan.
And
we're in a band.
We are in a band, the Beef People, who released a single in 1986 on our own label, Zub Records.
And we're record collectors.
We're especially passionate about the expression of pop music perfection that is the single recording, right?
It is.
And exploring the mystery of what makes for a great single is what propelled us to begin this podcast.
And today we have episode Singles Going Steady 066.
And I just realized I read your stuff, so hello.
That's okay. That's all right. So we're off to a good start.
We are. And we got a great single. What is the single today?
The single today is by a Scottish band called the Bluebells.
Oh, and this is a good one.
Yes.
We try to only pick the wheat from the chaff, and this is like solid wheat.
Yeah, very little chaff here. The Bluebells from Scotland and their single called Cath, with the flip side, All I Ever Said. And we have a few things to go on about this one.
We don't try to give you the stuff that you can pick up in 2 minutes on the Wikipedia. A little bit more of personal reflections and memories and takes, so hot or otherwise.
This single was released in 1983. It was on London Records in the UK. I believe they were on Sire Records in the US. I'm not sure how that all worked, but the reason that I first bought a Bluebells record was because the flip side of this single, All I Ever Said, was produced by none other than Mr. Elvis Costello.
And you have kind of a thing, don't you?
I'm not the only one here at the table.
Right. But certainly you're a completist.
Yes.
And I think the fact that you had a bunch of Scots and they were produced by Costello, that single was coming home with you. And what a remarkable record. The EP, the single, he became like a Bluebells aficionado.
Yes, because, Elvis has got a pretty good track record with his productions. The first Specials record, Robert Wyatt, Clive Langer, the Pogues.
Yeah, he picks, he doesn't, he's not a hired gun.
If you catch his ear, you're probably doing pretty well, and then they appear to have done that.
Right.
And some of you already know from the past episodes, but I was actually born in Scotland. I was born in Glasgow.
Really?
Yeah, I know. You can tell by the accent.
Exactly.
And so I'm always interested in Scottish bands. And there have been quite a few we've talked about, and there will be more we're going to talk about in our next few podcasts, I believe.
Yeah. Well, this is a band that we actually saw.
Yes.
Came to the U.S. and we saw them in Atlanta at the famous 688 Club.
Yes. And let's talk about that in a little bit after we listen to it.
We'll keep our powder at least
moist,
dryish. Yeah, right, exactly. The powder is out of the horn.
So, you ask, Adrienne, what is a bluebell?
What is a bluebell?
A bluebell is considered by some, it's a wildflower. It's considered by some the national flower of Scotland. Now, the national emblem of Scotland is, of course, the thistle.
Right. As in, I'm feeling the Richie, and this is the thistle and the shamrock. But you've got that. Thank you. That was the very worst.
Yeah, that was really pretty terrible.
Thank you.
But you gave it the old college try. Yeah, it
was a correspondence school, though, I think.
Yeah. What, in Togo?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it is a wildflower that grows in Scotland. It's also not just blue. It comes in shades of purple, pink, white, and cream. And it has also been called the hair flower because it is believed that witches would turn themselves into hares and hide in the flowers.
But not like the type on your head unless you have rabbits on your head.
In Scotland, they call a rabbit a hare. So.
Well, hares are different than rabbits. I saw something recently that a hare is less related to a rabbit than I can't remember what.
Than a bear.
We'll say, like a bear is more closely related to
or
something
a hare
like
bear.
that. Right.
So I think we've really gotten off the
I think we have. And we've got something we should not digress from, which is the wonderful Bluebells, the band.
So the thing I like about the good hare bear, good Bluebells is that
this is the first one back after a while, guys.
Can you guys tell?
Welcome back, us.
They have a real folky kind of thing to them in a good way.
Yeah,
not in a like I wish you would shut up kind of way, but in a very melodic folky thing. Would you agree?
Yes, I think it's got its Celtic traditional roots in a way. There's some faint echoes of sort of American folk, but I think by way, of
the thistle.
Traditional. I think we've got the thistle here
in the Highlands. So let's listen to Cath, the A side of the single.
Yes,
and you can hear for yourself the Bluebells from 1983, their second single on London Records. It's called Cath. right. That was Cath. And so there you go. You've got the Bob Dylan harmonica, which is not something you would hear a lot in 1983. The acoustic guitar, very prominent. The Scottish accented singing.
Yeah, there's no attempt here like we heard on the, especially with the B side, we're going to get very Beatlesque.
Right.
But there's not that attempt to sound American. No. This is nothing but.
They've got the brogue. Yes.
Right. The true Scots.
It's true Scots, and it's a catchy little song. They have an innocence about them that I like.
Right, and particularly when you think about what was going on musically. I mean, I think they're not afraid to be sort of anachronistic. I mean, folk was not this is way before My Name Is Luca and some of the folk revival.
And thinking about some
charts.
bands that might have been around that time, I'm thinking about things like maybe The Alarm. Who they were really in your face, the four screaming Bob Dylans.
Right.
And, really like kind of U2 with acoustic guitars. And this is not like that at all.
Right.
It's not bombastic. It's very, innocent and personal, and it's a love song. And it's not super repetitive in that sort of Dylan-y kind of way where there's a million verses or anything.
But it's repetitive in the sense that it's a sing-along.
A pop
right?
song.
I really imagine people sitting in the pub, somebody puts on Cath.
Cath, whoa.
Or somebody, and they've got the gang vocals with the band.
Yeah.
And you've got the sort of like the Celtic lead singer there, who's got a great voice. I mean, it seems to me to be a modernized version of traditional music in a lot of ways, but not afraid to be poppy,
right?
And pop, folk, traditional, all rolled in one.
Yes, yeah. So very effective, very, very, very likable.
Yeah, and if you're not singing by the second verse or even like the second whoa.
Yeah, I mean, you know where the lyrics are going.
Exactly.
Cath, you led me down the garden path.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So should we listen to the B-side?
Yeah.
Which, like you were saying, and I agree, this is the side that's produced by Elvis Costello. And it definitely has a little bit more of a Beatle-y kind of thing. And we were talking about the ending. We'll talk about it after we listen to it.
And he's certainly one that will put his thumb on the scale to tilt things towards the Beatlesque.
Yeah, you can definitely hear he gave it a little Imperial bedroom without all the keyboards. So let's play that, the B-side of the Bluebells Cath single. It's a song called All I Ever Said, 1983, London Records. Here we go.
So I think the end there, you've got that Beatlesque, maybe, I don't know if it's in fact a modal chord.
Oh, yeah, it goes to a major seventh or something. Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and with the ringing, Beatle-sounding guitar. I mean that's so likable. You know, when we selected Cath, of course, is just
on its own. That's worth doing the show about.
Right, but flipping over to the B side, I was like, oh wow, I really remember how much I used to sing this in my dorm room. Right. I mean that this was really. I mean, both songs are so catchy, so singable.
Yeah. And this one doesn't have the harmonica. It doesn't really have the acoustic. It's more of an electric song, but it's still kind of restrained, kind of like you were saying, like something you would hear from one of the first 2 or 3 Beatles records.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I mean, it really, because they did a lot of covers, a lot of pop music, like There Is a Place, the song from The Music Man, that there were some early songs that were very the sort of stuff your mom might like,
and they used to do in their live act stuff like Besame Mucho and
stuff that we would think of as being very corny, but in a heartfelt Beatlized way, and here you've got an original that brought me to mind to some of those early introducing the Beatles with the Beatles. Hi, I'm a Beatle. All those very early albums where they did have usually a few originals, but some
a lot of covers too.
A lot of hardcore good American songbook kind of pre-brill building songs, and this really brought me back to that, but in a fresh way. And of course, it's an original. It's but I mean, that's like, boy, this sounds like it comes out of a songbook of popular favorites.
So that's a really good, strong recommendation right there.
Absolutely.
That's. So we talked about the single. The first record that they put out in the U.S. Was just called the Bluebells, and it was called. They called it a mini album. It was on vinyl. It was 12-inch. It only had 5 songs on it.
Some people would call that an EP, but mini album, I guess,
And it had Cath on it. It had All I Ever... no, it didn't have All I Ever Said, but it had that song Sugar Bridge, which was very good. A couple other of the singles.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking for, now in the digital world.
They were more of a singles band. They had an LP called Second, but it was still made up from a number of singles.
Yeah, so
they didn't really put together like the definitive Bluebells album, I don't believe, they were definitely kind of a singles band, and this is a good example of that, I think.
So if you're going through the bins at your favorite used record emporium, hit the B's and see if you
don't pass up the Bluebells.
12-inch or smaller, any size of Bluebells. Grab it, because I mean they're wonderful compositions, great pop bones, and in a way pop sort of like a pre-1962 sensibility.
Pop/folk.
The sort of things that people sing along together when they gather.
Which is a very Scottish thing, I mean, my dad used to do that. He played the guitar, and whenever there was a party, he'd show up with his guitar and he'd start singing. And then and when he came to America and did that, everybody was like, "Oh my goodness," like he was some kind of amazing star or something, But that's just what you do in Scotland. You have your songs, and you go. Everybody gets together and has a drink, and everybody sings. It's just part of the social fabric. We did see them. You had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the 688 in Atlanta, and listeners
on Spring Street. Yep.
Oh yeah, sort of behind the fabulous Fox.
And next to the Varsity.
Oh yeah. So
everything you needed was there on Spring Street.
Absolutely, pitch a tent and stay, but or at least in the past. Yeah. And you guys might know the 688 if you don't remember it as a club from Paul Rudd's T-shirt in Clueless. I was like, oh, dreamy. He's got a 688 shirt. So does anybody else see that?
I didn't know that one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Paul Rudd, huh? Well, we saw a bunch of good bands there. So I mentioned Burma. We saw Human Sexual Response, who we've done.
It was a great venue.
It's a long list of people. New Order, saw New Order there.
Capacity was maybe 600
maybe,
or so,
yeah.
maybe 400.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a fairly large club for for touring international acts.
Right.
But not big enough to be across the street at the big theater, the sit down theater.
So when we went to see the Bluebells, they seemed to go pretty amazed to be in Atlanta, and they had like their little Tams on, and they were wearing like what did you say they looked like?
They looked like newsies.
Yes,
right?
they did. They had like suspenders on, and they looked like they were like right off of the Glasgow streets, Right,
but the Glasgow streets, I don't know, everything's a little slower over there, but but here it would have been World War I era, and there it would have been between the wars.
Right.
Perhaps in Scotland. But
again, they were very earnest. They were very friendly, and they put on a great show.
Yeah, and sort of unabashed.
Everybody loved them. They were. They went down a storm. It was just a good evening, just fun. It wasn't not ironic and not snarky, and just good fun.
Heart on their sleeves,
yes.
And not embarrassed about it.
No, and no need to be,
No, yeah. But at the time there was an awful lot of snark going on,
snark and a lot of hardcore stuff and negativity, and that's what a lot of the punk rock was about. But they're kind of on a different thing,
Yeah.
And it was a good trip to be on.
Yeah, and they sounded very much like their recordings in the sense that
very professional.
They could pull off those vocals. They had the singing jangly guitars. So this was 80s in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Jangly guitars were the thing. But what they do with jangly guitars is not what Americans do with jangly guitars.
Right. It wasn't a Birdsy kind of thing.
Right. This one didn't owe itself to the origin in the Byrds the way that that really sort of set off a whole army of Rickenbackers in the early 80s in the U.S.
But I do remember that as being just a wonderful show.
Yeah.
And, the Bluebells. Cath, great single. Check out the Bluebells. You may or may not remember them. You may know them. If you don't, we are both going to say this is one you should definitely devote some time to. Yeah,
and you think what makes this a great single is the fact that it's just you can find no fault with it. I think.
Right. I mean, if you like pop music, if you like good singing, good songwriting, authenticity.
Yeah,
there's definitely a lot of authenticity here. They're not. It's not a show busy kind of a band.
Yeah.
They're not up there doing splits and scissor kicks and or mosh pitting or whatever. They're just up doing their thing. Doing their Scottish folky thing.
Who could you hear covering this? Is there anybody who could sort of carry off that earnestness?
I was thinking I would like to hear one of their compatriots do the song, and that I was thinking about Donovan.
Yeah, I think you've got the line from them to Donovan and then further back.
Right, because Donovan's from Glasgow, and my parents actually knew him. And he's got that folky thing going on for sure, a little bit more on the Dylan end, but his stuff is very melodic too, and I could hear him doing Cath for sure.
I think that's a good call.
Do you have one?
I'm going to piggyback on that.
Okay,
because,
all right.
I think that's perfect.
Well, as we wrap things up, do we have any recommendations? I think we're both going to recommend that first Bluebells mini album.
Yeah, and I guess that's a redundant because we wouldn't have picked this if we didn't recommend it. Yeah. But absolutely, get that mini album.
Yeah, and we'll put up a link to it, of course.
And I was also thinking, and I don't know if I recommended this before, but I was thinking about trad. There was this time before the Beatles where trad was viewed almost as a style, a label for groups in England, and there's an early Richard Lester movie, pre Hard Day's Night, called It's Trad Dad.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
I know TCM plays it every once in a while.
Okay. Does it have the real performers in it?
It has the real performers in it. It's got a corny story in it, just like, it's very much a blueprint. If you're Beatles completist, you'll want to see it sort of as a forerunner of Hard Day's Night. And, get some of that, flavor of things that were in the DNA.
Right, in the 50s in Britain.
Oh, yeah. So this would have been as the 50s became the 60s, but they hadn't had really the Beatles revolution.
Yeah. Before the skiffle explosion. Which,
well, it's sort of like maybe skiffle contemporary.
Yeah.
But not on into Mersey Beat.
Right. That's a great recommendation. And the other one I think we both agree with. We went there today. We are in Durham today, and Durham, North Carolina, and probably the best donut shop I've ever been in is here in Durham. It's called Early Bird Donuts,
and they're fantastic.
And it's mind-blowingly good.
Yeah, they're fluffy. As my mother took one to my mother, she's like, I know that these are fried, but they're not greasy.
They're not greasy.
They're not greasy. Yeah. So
and they have the thing where you can pick out the donut and they'll fill it with like they have 6 or 7 different kinds of filling. They'll squeeze it right in there for you while you watch.
And I don't know if you give them like a fin, if they'll just like squirt it in your mouth. Probably not.
But maybe if you slip them a 20. But, but really, the donuts are to die for. There's a salted caramel one. There's the one with the bacon on it. That's in the maple. That's just it sends my head flying across the room. And they make all kinds of specialty stuff that's always gone because we can't get there early.
Right. It's not for the rock and roller.
Right.
So I'm sure that
very nice, very hardworking people that run that place, and they're the donuts are just, and they have other things too. They have sandwiches and things too.
Kolaches.
Yes.
But what I would do is check out the local donut shops.
Yes.
And don't you don't necessarily have to go to one that's got basil infused.
Right.
I don't know, glazes and stuff like that. Like good old basic donut can just be revelatory.
Yes, and this place is amazing. So there we went from Bluebells to donuts.
Which sounds like, is that an old Scots saying?
I think it is. I think, that was, maybe it's from Guinness to donuts. I don't know. But this has been Singles Going Steady 066, the wonderful Scottish band from the 80s, the Bluebells. The single's called Cath, and All I Ever Said. We really think it's worth your time, and we hope you've enjoyed talking with us today or listening to us talk to you today.
Yeah, I know, and hopefully the sugar from the donuts didn't feel too much loose lips in this episode.
Right. So we will talk to you again very soon.
Soon, guys.
Bye now.
To learn more about the artists and recordings we just talked about, visit our website at zubrecords.com and click on the Singles Going Steady icon.
You'll also find links to the persons, places, and things we recommend, and much more.
You can find episodes of Singles Going Steady on our website or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Singles Going Steady is brought to you by the power and majesty of Zub Records.
Zub Records. Smart sounds for sharp people.
I was right in the middle of